Hey-o, what's going on, everybody?
That just doesn't get old. It just doesn't get old.
It doesn't, and I know to pause now for your commentary after I do my intro. And
Yes.
Hey, we're back with another episode of IoT Nuggets with a return guest, Mr. Shawn Sweeney from Alef. Very excited to have you back. Yeah. And last time we did this with you, Shawn, you and Steve were on the floor together at an event, at a convention, and now we're back in our own spaces here to talk a little bit more about Alef. We talked a little bit last time about 5G and private networks, and today we're going to dig in a little bit more into what is a private network and why that matters. And we appreciate you all tuning in. Once again, bhiotgroup.com is the website for BHIoT Group for your IoT deployment, and you can talk to Steve and John about that. And with that said, Steve, I'm going to pass it on to you.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. You're on.
Thanks for the pressure. Appreciate it. Thanks, Doug. Well, Shawn, a lot has happened in the last month since we left Las Vegas, a channel partner show.
You're as good looking as ever, Stephen.
Ditto. And Alef has made some amazing jumps in so many different areas. We're so happy to be a part of that as a partner with you. But why don't you give the audience a quick, just a quick recess of who you are? Like, what is Alef all about?
Yep. So Alef is a software company. We essentially sell APIs as a service. These APIs enable you to build private mobile networks inside your enterprise. And by that, we mean as part of the enterprise network, inside the perimeter, behind the firewall, without the feel of bolt-ons or add-ons or complex policy requirements and so forth. And the reason that that's important is most enterprises really don't want to know all that much about how to build a private mobile network. This involves, of course, a great deal of intellectual property. Having worked on the carrier side, I can tell you that, we had many experts that were well-versed in the whole idea of evolved packet core networks, or EPCs, as they're often known, having worked, again, for one of the largest mobile carriers in the world. And I think what we do is we enable the enterprise to deploy that technology inside of their network without having to know anything about all the technologies that are associated with that by essentially providing a set of APIs or calls that the enterprise can make to turn a device on inside that network, to enable it just like any other device inside that network, and then apply their regular policy and security paradigms to that, without changing governance or rules or firewalls or anything like that.
And is this a private network, or is this over a public carrier network? How does this get set up?
No, when we say private, we mean private. In other words, this would be for the benefit of a given enterprise. They wouldn't share it with anybody else. We have certain characteristics that we can provision to further ensure that there's no other devices connecting to it. It works just like the carrier network in that if devices are not provisioned, they're not allowed on. It applies all of the security paradigms that 3GPP does today, which is a short way of saying that we're every bit as secure as the mobile network that you may be familiar with using from your handset. However, we specifically will deploy on a radio technology that the enterprise owns and operates inside their perimeter, and we provision that into an EPC, for lack of a better word, which essentially keeps the enterprise from having to make these purchases on their own. And having been involved in the purchasing and procurement of these kinds of things, I can tell you they're quite expensive. And so this is something, that most enterprises really don't want to get involved in, and frankly, it'll be really, a part of their overall network. And so there's no need for them really to get in the dirt with all of the various technologies that are associated with that.
Can you give us a minute on APIs? Obviously we all know in the industry what to do with them, but tell us how it works with you. I mean, does the customer, does the systems integrator, do you guys do the APIs? And what do you need the API integration for? Isn't it all in the cloud?
Well, we just in the last couple of weeks announced a developer-first approach to the market. And what this means is that enterprise developers can essentially customize and build this infrastructure that we're talking about inside of their perimeter simply by issuing API calls to our infrastructure. And so the way it works is they might say something really simple, like, let's provision device A. We would respond with an acknowledgement that device A is provisioned. In the background, we would make sure that device A was in fact a device that would be allowed on the network. In the more complex, and then from there ever after, device A would be allowed on the net. There are more complex policies that may be applied as well. So let's say device A has specific response time requirements or speed or throughput requirements. These are things that we can also essentially customize per device, per application, per enterprise, per a slice or a APN within that enterprise. And so we have a variety of different logical ways that we can apply policy to that and ensure that essentially those devices or device are getting the kind of treatment that they require. So we work a lot with manufacturers, and they have very specific requirements for some of their machines. And they may have response time requirements. They may have latency requirements. They may indeed have asymmetric latency requirements, a latency for upstream versus downstream. And those are all traffic conditioning things that can be provisioned in the Alef platform through API calls.
So we're going to have another session after this, everybody, just so you know. We're going to continue speaking with Shawn about different things. The next session is going to be around applications and obviously the application use cases using the APIs. But just one last question for this segment, Shawn. What's the biggest challenge that you're facing, that Alef is facing today?
Well, I think that we think that we've really lowered total cost of ownership. And by that, we mean you don't require a great deal of hardware on site. We do require, obviously, whatever radios, embracing whatever cellular technology might be available. We like to say any G. For us, it doesn't matter if it's 4G, 5G, CBRS flavors of 4G or 5G. It really doesn't matter. But what that enables the customer to do is to really get out of the hardware business. So when we're talking about some of the procurement in the carrier network, as you can probably appreciate, there's a fair amount of hardware that goes into supporting these networks, and none of that is necessarily required with our API approach. So that helps you lower essentially the deployment as well as the upfront procurement of this equipment. But then in the longer run, we lower the operational costs, not just because it's a better approach and it's more controllable by the enterprise, but the enterprise gets to use essentially servers or orchestration methodologies that they're already familiar with. They don't have to buy special ones. So we fit into the framework that most enterprises have put in today in order to do other things like orchestrate compute resources within their environment. Now they're just simply setting up private mobile networks inside their environment with through our API calls. And again, we offer this as a service, which of course further lowers costs relative to the enterprise itself.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, everybody, Doug, we've finished episode 2 with Shawn at Alef, so I'm going to pass it off to you. Thanks, Shawn. Appreciate it. Looking forward to the next episode.
Great.
Thank you, gentlemen. Great stuff, Shawn. To me, anytime I think an enterprise hears that it's customizable and secure, that's something they probably like. That's my layman's takeaway. And once again, thank you everybody for joining in. We will have, as Steve said, another episode coming up. Make sure you visit bhiotgroup.com and connect. It's actually above Shawn's head this time. Over there. There it is. bhiotgroup.com. Make sure you connect on LinkedIn and the YouTube channel, and you can see all the rest of the nuggets that we have produced. Shawn, thanks again. And wearealef.com is the website for Alef.
Yep. And just so you know, everybody, we'll be at IoT Evolution in Fort Lauderdale the end of June, running a whole session on Thursday afternoon, and the Alef people will be with us. So that'll be great.
Good stuff. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
See you soon.